This is Recipe for Sleep, a podcast where we dust off very old cookbooks and let them lull us into dreamland. We'd love for you to join our community at thanksalt.com, where I share my own recipes and stories, including a recipe adapted from tonight's cookbook, soft, pillowy cornbread. And if you find this is indeed your recipe for sleep, consider rating and reviewing, or just tell a friend. Hello, I'm Erin Brindley, a chef and storyteller. I find the poetry of old recipes read aloud to be the perfect place to put my busy brain when I'm trying to fall asleep. Hopefully you will too. In this podcast, I read from cookbooks from the late 18 and early 1900s to you. Tonight, I will read The Magic Way. The Magic Way was published by Magic Baking Powder and has a charming preamble before it gets to the recipes. Lots of tips on baking cakes and why Magic Baking Powder is the best baking powder. Really, sometimes you do choose a book by its cover. And this third edition, published in 1924, has the most darling cover, from the typeface to the flapper holding a chocolate cake. We'll put a picture of it up on the Recipe for Sleep Instagram page, but don't look at that now. I think you'll remember tomorrow. For now, turn the lights out. Put away anything you were doing and snuggle deep into your sweet covers. Imagine the kitchen of your mind. There are two cupboards there. Yesterday's cupboard, for all the things that have already happened that your mind wants to chew on. And tomorrow's cupboard, for all the things you're going to do or what's going to happen later. It's time to put everything away in those cupboards. Imagine closing each one. You made it to this cozy, quiet time of day where there's nothing to do but listen to me read you old cookbooks until you drift off to sleep. Are your pillows perfect? Covers over your shoulders? Take a nice deep breath in. And with the breath out, feel all the tension in your body melting away. Relax your hands. Relax your jaw. Relax your feet. Now, let's hear about the Magic Way. The Magic Way. This book is presented to you with the idea of stimulating home baking. We have endeavored to make it a practical book and include in it recipes for cakes suitable for all ordinary occasions and which can easily be made even by those with limited experience. The recipes offered, many of which have never been published before, have been carefully tested, and the illustrations are actual photographs from articles baked in our own testing department. The question as to whether good cake is a luxury or a necessity is something that each individual must settle for themselves. But all will agree that a cake that is not properly made is a positive waste, while cake made with inferior ingredients is not only a waste, but is injurious to the digestive organs as well. The primary object in making cake should be the producing of something that is healthful and nutritious, and it is also desirable to have it attractive in appearance. The difference in the actual cost between a cake made from proper ingredients and one made with an idea of approximating the other in appearance without regard to the real food value, is small when one takes into consideration the number of cakes made in the average home. However, some good cake makers maintain they can economize by reducing the number of eggs used in a cake by nearly 1/2 and substitute a teaspoon of baking powder for each egg left out. Also, by substituting a good vegetable oil shortening for part of the butter called for. On this point, we wish to add a word of caution, to the effect that if any substitutes are used and the cake is a failure, do not blame the baking powder, as we know that if directions are carefully followed, results are bound to be satisfactory. We recommend the use of magic baking powder because we know that its ingredients are of the highest quality. It contains no alum or other injurious substitutes. It is an efficient, healthful, and economical leavening agent. It is a pure phosphate baking powder, and all food scientists claim that phosphate is an important element in food. Magic baking powder restores to the food phosphatic elements equivalent to those that fine wheat flour loses in milling. Women are coming more and more to realize that magic baking powder is the perfect baking powder, and that foods containing it have increased nutritive value. To ensure the best results in baking cakes, there are certain fundamental rules that always should be remembered. All ingredients should be kept as cool as possible, and the mixing done quickly. Many cakes, and especially those that are made with baking powder, will spoil if they have to stand waiting for the oven to heat, or if they are placed in one that is not sufficiently hot. A little forethought in this respect will avoid many a failure. Have everything ready before beginning to mix the cake. If there is any fruit or other ingredient requiring preparation, make all this ready before starting the actual mixing. Fruit for cakes, such as currants and raisins, must be thoroughly cleaned, washed, well dried, and before mixing with the preparation, dusted with flour to prevent from sinking to the bottom. As soon as the mixing operation is complete, turn into proper baking tins and place in oven. If the butter is very hard, rinse the mixing bowl with hot water, wipe dry, and put in the butter cut in small pieces. Let it soften while the other ingredients are made ready. In cold weather, when the butter is hard, it may be lightly warmed to make it easier to work, but on no account melt it. If you do, your cake will inevitably be heavy. Unless the butter is thoroughly beaten into the rest of the ingredients, the cake, when baked, will be streaky, with greasy smears through it where there has been an unmixed lump of butter. This is the reason why good cake makers always beat their butter to a cream, as this ensures the due mixing of the materials. Lard, drippings, vegetable fat, and beef marrow all make excellent cakes. For household and nursery use, well-clarified drippings should always be used for pies, puddings, and cakes. Of course, beef drippings are meant. Mutton drippings, though an excellent frying medium, are apt to impart a disagreeable tang to anything in which it is allowed to cool. Water may be substituted in place of sweet milk. Of course, there will be a difference in the cake. It will be light and tender, but not quite so white or spongy. It is best to grease and paper the pans for cakes which contain butter, but it is not necessary to do this for sponge cake. If a cake cracks open as it rises, too much flour has been used. If it rises in a cone in the center, the oven is too hot. Beating eggs and butter makes them light. When the beating of whites of eggs are added, do not stir, but turn or fold them in lightly so as not to break the air cells. In filling the cake pan, let the mixture be a little higher on the sides than in the middle. Cakes, while baking, especially large ones, should not be moved until nearly done, but if it is necessary, it must be done gently. If cakes color too fast, they should be covered with greased paper to prevent too rapid browning. Cakes, when done, will show a slight springiness when pressed upon the surface with the fingers. It is not always easy or even advisable, in many cases, to give the exact time cakes will take to bake, as this will vary from many causes. Therefore, the best way is always to test the cake before removing it from the oven. For this purpose, take a long, thin wooden skewer and run it right down the center of the cake. If this comes out dry and clean, the cake is done. If, on the contrary, it sticks and is wet, the cake needs longer baking. A layer cake will bake in 15 or 20 minutes. A sheet of cake in a flat tin will take about 35 minutes. A thick loaf requires from 40 to 60 minutes. 1 egg cake. 1/4 cup butter. 1/2 cup sugar. 1 egg. 1/2 cup milk. 1½ cups flour. 2½ heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. Cream the butter and sugar thoroughly. Then add the egg. Beat well. Sift flour and baking powder twice. Then add to mixture alternately with the milk. Beat all together lightly. Bake in a well-buttered, shallow pan. Cover with almond or chocolate icing. Walnut cake. 1/2 cup butter. 1 1/4 cups granulated sugar. 3 eggs. 1/2 cup sweet milk. 2 cups flour. 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. Cream butter and sugar thoroughly. Beat yolks and stir in. Add milk. Then add whites, which have been beaten stiff. Then flour with baking powder well sifted in. Beat all together lightly and flavor with vanilla. Ice with caramel icing. Arrange walnuts in regular order on top. Caramel icing. 2/3 cup milk. Butter size of walnut. 2 cups brown sugar. Boil till thick, about 15 minutes. Flavor, and stir till it thickens sufficiently to spread on cake. Footnote: add a thinly sliced banana to the white of an egg and beat until stiff. The banana will be entirely absorbed, and you will have a delicious substitute for whipped cream. Lady cake. 4 tablespoons shortening. 1 1/4 cups sugar. 3/4 cup milk. 1/2 teaspoon almond extract. 2½ cups flour. 5 teaspoons magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. Whites of 2 eggs. Cream shortening and sugar thoroughly. Add milk a little at a time, alternately with the flour, which has been sifted several times with baking powder and salt. Add flavoring and fold in stiffly beaten whites of eggs. Bake 45 minutes in a loaf pan in a moderate oven. Cover with white icing. Chocolate cake. Butter size of an egg. 1 cup sugar, half fruit and half granulated. 2 eggs. Rind of half lemon grated. 1½ cups flour. Half cup cornstarch. 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. 3/4 cup milk. Half teaspoon each vanilla and rose extract. Cream, butter, and sugar. Add grated lemon rind and eggs. Beat well. Then add flour, cornstarch, baking powder, which have been sifted together, alternately with the milk, then the flavorings. Beat all well together and bake in 3 well-greased jelly cake tins. Filling. 2 squares baker's chocolate dissolved in milk over the tea kettle. Add a little cream, 1 whole beaten egg, and icing sugar enough to thicken to spread. When iced, place blanched almonds in fancy shapes on top. Dark chocolate cake. 1 cup grated chocolate. Half cup sweet milk. 3/4 cup brown sugar. Yolk of 1 egg. 1 teaspoon vanilla. Half cup butter. Half cup brown sugar. 2 eggs. 2 cups flour. 1 teaspoon magic soda. Half cup sweet milk. Into a double boiler, put chocolate, brown sugar, egg yolk, vanilla, and sweet milk. Cook slowly till like cream. Cool. Then add butter, brown sugar, beaten eggs, and flour which has been sifted with magic soda, and sweet milk. Beat all well together. Bake in a slow oven. Chocolate layer cake. 2 eggs. 1 cup powdered sugar. 1 cup milk. 2 cups flour. 4 level teaspoons magic baking powder. 1/4 teaspoon salt. 1 teaspoon vanilla. Beat egg yolks until thick. Add sugar gradually and beat well. Then vanilla and milk slowly. Add flour which has been sifted with baking powder and salt. Then stiffly beat whites of eggs. Bake in 3 greased layer cake pans about 15 minutes in hot oven. Filling for chocolate layer cake. Put 2 squares of chocolate in a bowl and soften over a tea kettle. Add 2 tablespoons cream and thicken with icing sugar. Place between layers and on top of cake when cooled. Cream cake. 2 eggs. 1 cup sugar. 2/3 cup thin cream. 1 2/3 cup flour. 2½ heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. Half teaspoon salt. Half teaspoon cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon mace. 1/4 teaspoon ginger. Put unbeaten eggs in a bowl. Add sugar and cream. Beat vigorously. Mix and sift remaining ingredients. Then add to first mixture. Bake 30 minutes in shallow cake pan. Cheap sponge cake. Yolks of 3 eggs. 1 cup sugar. 2 teaspoons hot water. 1 cup flour. 1 heaping teaspoon magic baking powder. 1/4 teaspoon salt, whites of 3 eggs, 2 teaspoons vinegar or lemon juice. Beat yolks of eggs till thick and lemon colored. Add sugar gradually and continue beating. Then add water, flour mixed and sifted with baking powder and salt, whites of eggs beaten until stiff, and vinegar. Bake 35 minutes in a moderate oven in a floured cake pan. Footnote: in mashing potatoes, never use cold milk. Heat it, then it will be light and fluffy. Before heating milk in a saucepan, always rinse the pan with water. It prevents the milk from scorching. Jelly cake. 3 eggs, 1 cup fine sugar, 1 cup flour, 1 teaspoon magic baking powder, 1 tablespoon milk, currant jelly. Separate eggs. Beat yolks till thick, gradually adding sugar. Then stir gently into yolks, flour and baking powder, which have been sifted 3 times. Then milk. Lastly, fold in well-beaten whites. Pour into jelly cake pans and bake from 10 to 15 minutes. When cool, spread with jelly, put layers together, and sift fine sugar on top. Jelly roll. 3 large fresh eggs. 1 cup fruit sugar. ½ teaspoon lemon extract. 1 cup pastry flour. 1 heaping teaspoon magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. 3 tablespoons cold water. Any kind of jelly or soft jam. Separate eggs. Beat yolks till thick and lemon colored. Add flavoring and sugar. Then the stiffly beaten whites. Mix very lightly. Then add flour, salt, and baking powder, which have been sifted together 5 times. Then cold water. Beat very lightly. Have ready a papered and well-buttered shallow pan and bake in a moderately hot oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Fold a clean tea towel. Lay it on a board. Over this, place a piece of damp cheesecloth. Sift on some fine sugar, and when sponge is done, turn out. Cut off edges and spread with jelly or jam. And with the hands under the cheesecloth, roll up quickly. When cool, sift powdered sugar over the jelly roll. Fruit cake. ½ cup butter, 3/4 cup lard, 1 1/4 cups sugar, 3 eggs, 4 cups flour, 1 teaspoon magic baking powder, 1 teaspoon each cocoa, cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger, ½ teaspoon salt, 2 cups raisins, seeded and chopped, ½ cup chopped cherries, 1 cup currants, ½ cup shredded citron peel, ½ cup blanched and chopped almonds, 1 cup milk. Cream, butter, and lard, gradually adding sugar. Beat in eggs 1 at a time. Sift together 3 times 3 cups flour, baking powder, salt, and all the spices. Then add to first mixture alternately with fruit and nuts, which have been dredged with the remaining cup of flour. Add milk. Beat all together hard for 5 or 10 minutes. Put mixture into a greased and papered tin and bake in moderate oven for 3 hours. Hard and long beating gives a close and fine texture. Raisin cake. 1 cup lard, 1 cup sugar, 4 eggs, 2½ cups flour, 1 teaspoon magic baking powder, 1 teaspoon ground nutmeg, 3 tablespoons milk, 1 pound seeded raisins, 1 cup shredded candied citron peel, ½ cup blanched and chopped almonds. Cream lard and sugar thoroughly. Add eggs, beat well, then add milk. Sift in 2 cups of the flour with baking powder, keeping out 1/2 cup to flour the fruit. Add spices, then fruit and almonds. Beat all together and put into a well-greased papered cake tin and bake in a moderate oven for 2 hours. When cool, cover the top with white frosting and decorate with raisins. This cake is one that will keep fresh for a number of days. Christmas cake. 1 pound butter, 1 pound sugar, 10 eggs, 1 pound flour, 1 teaspoon magic baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, ½ teaspoon each ground cloves, mace, allspice, and nutmeg, 1 pound seeded raisins, 1 pound currants, 1 pound sultanas, ½ pound blanched and chopped almonds, ½ pound mixed peel, ½ teaspoon each rose, vanilla, and almond extract. Cream butter gradually, adding sugar. Beat in eggs one at a time. Beat all together until very light. Sift together 3/4 pound flour, all spices, baking powder, and salt. Add to first mixture alternately with fruit, peel, and nuts, which have been dredged in the remaining 1/4 pound flour. Then add extracts. Beat well. Line a cake tin with well-greased letter paper. Put in cake mixture and bake in moderate oven for ½ hour, then in slow oven for 4 hours. Louise cake. Will keep fresh and moist for several days. ½ pound butter, 1½ cups sugar, 3 eggs, 1 cup milk, 2½ cups flour, 3 level teaspoons magic baking powder, pinch salt, ½ pound raisins, ½ pound currants, 1/4 pound shelled almonds. Flavorings: nutmeg, grated orange or lemon peel, vanilla, and rose. Cream butter and sugar. Throw in the yolks of eggs, pinch of salt, and milk, and beat well together. Then gradually beat in the flour which has been sifted with the baking powder, leaving enough flour for dredging the fruit. When thoroughly mixed, beat in the fruit, chopped nuts, flavoring, then fold in the whites of the 3 eggs well beaten. Place in a deep cake tin lined with buttered paper. Keep out a few of the almonds. Have them place on top. Bake for 1 hour in moderate oven. Gossamer gingerbread. ½ cup butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 egg, ½ cup milk, 1 7/8 cup flour, 3 teaspoons magic baking powder, 1 teaspoon yellow ginger. Cream the butter. Add the sugar gradually. Then egg well beaten. Add milk and dry ingredients mixed and sifted. Spread in a buttered dripping pan as thinly as possible using the back of a mixing spoon. Bake 15 minutes. Sprinkle with sugar and cut in small squares or diamonds before removing from pan. Cinnamon loaf cake. 1 cup shortening. 1½ cups granulated sugar. 4 eggs. 3/4 cup milk. 2 cups flour. 4 level teaspoons magic baking powder. 1 cup chopped walnuts. 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon. Cream shortening with 1 cup of the granulated sugar. Work it into the flour which has been sifted with the baking powder. Beat the eggs thoroughly. Add the milk and add to dry mixture. Beat all well together. Put into a well-greased loaf tin, and over the top, sprinkle the chopped nuts, cinnamon, and the other ½ cup of sugar. Bake slowly 1 hour. Golden corn cake. 3/4 cup cornmeal. 1¼ cups flour. 1/4 cup sugar. 5 teaspoons magic baking powder. ½ teaspoon salt. 1 cup milk. 1 egg. 1 or 2 tablespoons melted butter. Mix and sift the dry ingredients. Add melted butter. Egg well beaten. Milk. Put into a buttered, shallow pan and bake in a hot oven for 20 minutes. Footnote: if you wish to set a dish on the ice, prevent it from sliding by putting a fruit jar rubber under it. Add a pinch of cream of tartar to the whites of eggs when they are half beaten. This keeps them from falling before being used. Honey hermits. 1 cup strained honey. 3 eggs. 3 tablespoons shortening. 1 cup flour. 3 level teaspoons magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. 2 cups cooked bran. Beat together the honey, eggs, shortening. Add flour, salt, baking powder, which have been sifted together. Add the bran. Stir briskly. Drop in small quantities from a teaspoon onto a well-greased flat pan. Bake 25 minutes in a slow oven. A few currants or seeded and chopped raisins are a nice addition. Hermits. ½ cup butter. 2/3 cup sugar. 1 egg. ½ cup raisins, stoned and cut in small pieces. 2 tablespoons milk. 1 3/4 cup flour. 2 teaspoons magic baking powder. ½ teaspoon cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon each of cloves, mace, and nutmeg. Cream the butter. Add sugar gradually, then raisins, egg well beaten, and milk. Mix and sift dry ingredients and add to first mixture. Roll mixture a little thicker than for vanilla wafers. Footnote: raisins, when heated in the oven, will seed much more easily. A delicious cake filling is made of sugar and cream boiled together and thickened with finely ground peanuts. Sponge gems. ½ cup butter or good shortening. 1 cup sugar. 3 eggs. ½ teaspoon salt. ½ teaspoon orange extract. ½ cup cold water. 1 1/4 cups sifted flour. 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. Cream, butter, or shortening. Add salt, sugar. Mix well. Then beaten yolks of eggs. Beat well for 5 minutes. Add extract and cold water. Sift thoroughly together flour and baking powder, and add alternately with stiffly beaten whites of eggs. This is sufficient for 12 gems. Bake in a moderate oven for 15 minutes. Lady's fingers. 2 eggs, 1 cup fine sugar, ½ cup butter, ¼ cup sweet milk, 2 cups flour, 2 teaspoons magic baking powder, 1 teaspoon vanilla. Beat the butter, sugar, and egg together until very light. Add vanilla and milk. Sift flour and baking powder together 3 times. Add to first mixture. Cut in strips about 1/4 inch thick. Roll in sugar and bake in a quick oven. Use your hands to roll instead of a rolling pin. German lady's fingers. 5 eggs, yolks. ½ pound sugar. ½ pound blanched almonds. Grated rind of 1 lemon. ½ pound flour. ½ teaspoon magic baking powder. Beat the yolks and sugar for 15 minutes and add the almonds cut fine and grated lemon rind. Mix well. Add flour and baking powder, which have been sifted together, gradually. Roll out and cut into strips. Bake in a moderate oven. Drop cakes. ½ cup butter, 1 cup sugar, granulated or fruit, 4 eggs, 2 cups flour, 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder, ½ teaspoon salt, 2/3 cup milk, 1 teaspoon flavoring extract, 4 tablespoons currants. Cream, butter, and sugar. Add yolks. Beat well together. Then some of the flour which has been sifted with the baking powder. Then some of the beaten whites, milk, and extract. Which 3 ingredients have been mixed together. Now add more flour and currants and remainder of the whites, milk, and extract. Beat all lightly together. Drop in spoonfuls into gem pans. Bake 20 minutes in a moderate oven. If drop cakes are made without fruit, use 1/4 less milk. Enough for 1½ dozen cakes. If desired, nuts or candied peel can be used for the cakes. Quantity required, 4 tablespoons. Do not mix fruit, nuts, or peel. Use only one or the other. Footnote: a rich fruit cake should be beaten long and hard to give it a fine, even texture. A small piece of camphor or a little saltpeter in water in which flowers are placed will make them last much longer. Ginger snaps. ½ cup lard, ½ cup butter, 1 large cup brown sugar, 1 cup water, 1 tablespoon extract ginger, 1 teaspoon each extract cinnamon and cloves, 1 quart flour, 1½ teaspoons magic baking powder. Rub to a smooth paste lard, butter, and sugar. Then rub it into the flour and baking powder sifted together. Mix into a firm dough with water and extracts. Roll out the dough thin on a floured board. Cut out with round biscuit cutter and bake on a greased pan in a hot, steady oven 8 minutes. Cookies. a good recipe with fruit or made plain. 1/2 cup butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 egg well beaten, 1 egg white, grated rind of a lemon, 1/2 cup milk, 3 cups flour sifted with 3 teaspoons magic baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 pound any fruit, raisins, currants, peel, spice, or grated pineapple, or left without. Cream butter, sugar, lemon rind, egg, and milk. Sift in flour, baking powder, and salt. Chill in dough refrigerator if convenient. Then roll out on well-floured board half of the dough. Then brush over with white of an egg and spread this with any fruit or nuts desired to be used. Place the other layer of the dough on top and roll together. Then cut into shapes with square, round, or oblong cutter. If made plain, the cookies can be frosted, and if no nuts are used inside, they can be sprinkled with coconut or the plain frosting used, and a cherry put on top of each, or can be dredged with granulated sugar on top. Bake in a moderate oven. Oatmeal cookies. 1 egg, 1/4 cup sugar, 1/4 cup thin cream, 1/4 cup milk, 1/2 cup fine oatmeal, 2 cups flour, 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder, 1 teaspoon salt. Beat egg until light. Add sugar, cream, and milk. Then add oatmeal, flour, baking powder, and salt, mixed and sifted. Toss on a floured board. Roll, cut in shape, and bake in a moderate oven. Oatmeal cookies 2. 1 cup mixed butter and lard. 2 level cups brown sugar. 2 cups flour. 3 cups rolled oats. 4 level teaspoons magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. 1 cup or a trifle more of milk, enough to make a stiff dough. Cream butter and sugar. Sift flour, baking powder, and salt, and add to the rolled oats. Add all other ingredients. Knead well, roll out thin, and cut into shapes, and bake about 25 minutes in a rather slow oven. These are good put together with jam, jelly, or icing, and keep fresh a long time. Were very much enjoyed by the boys overseas. Oatmeal macaroons. 2 eggs beaten separately. 1 tablespoon butter. 1 cup granulated sugar. Pinch of salt. 1/2 teaspoon vanilla. 2 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. 2 cups rolled oats. Roll into marbles and bake in a moderate oven. Tea cakes. 1/2 cup shortening. 1/2 cup sugar, either brown or granulated. Pinch of salt. 1 egg. 1 cup milk or enough to make a smooth batter. 3 cups flour. 5 level teaspoons magic baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon lemon flavoring. 2 tablespoons currants, chopped dates, or raisins. Cream shortening, sugar, and salt. Add the well-beaten egg and the milk. Sift in the flour and baking powder. Add fruit and flavoring. Mix well and drop into well-greased muffin rings. Bake quickly, about 20 minutes. When served hot, split with a fork and butter. Baking powder biscuits. 2 cups flour. 2 teaspoons magic baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon butter, 1 tablespoon lard, 3/4 cup milk, and water, about half and half. Mix the flour, baking powder, and salt together and sift well. Then work in butter and lard with fingers. Add milk and water, chilled. Stir with knife or wooden spoon until the mixture is evenly distributed. Then turn out on a floured board. Roll to desired thickness and cut with small cutter. Put into hot oven immediately and bake 15 minutes. This should make 2 dozen biscuits. It is important to have all the ingredients as cold as possible, and mixing should be done quickly. Pocketbook rolls. 1 heaping cup flour, 1 heaping teaspoon magic baking powder, pinch of salt, 1 tablespoon shortening, 1 cup thin cream, ice cold, a little butter. Sift flour, baking powder, and salt. Rub in shortening. Make into a soft dough with the cream. Roll out onto board. Fold and roll again. Cut into rounds with a large biscuit cutter and brush over with melted butter. Fold in half and bake in oven 365 degrees. After 10 minutes, reduce heat to 360, a moderate oven, for 20 minutes. Remove from oven and while still hot, brush over again with melted butter. They are then ready for use and are best served hot. Can be warmed over if a week old. Muffins. 4 level teaspoons magic baking powder. 1½ level cups, 6 ounces flour. 1 level teaspoon salt. 2 level tablespoons, 1 ounce sugar. 7/8 cup, scant half pint milk. 2 tablespoons, 1 ounce butter. 1 egg. Sift flour once, measure, add baking powder, salt, and sugar, and sift 4 times. Add milk gradually while stirring constantly. When smooth and free from lumps, add melted butter. Mix. Add egg well beaten, thick and light colored. Beat well and pour into hot, well-greased gem pans. Sufficient for 12 muffins. Footnote: a cupful of cold cooked oatmeal is a good addition to beef or tomato soup. Brown oven scones. 2 pounds whole wheat flour. 2 cups white flour. 4 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. ½ teaspoon salt. 4 tablespoons shortening. 2 cups milk. 1 egg. Mix together wheat flour, white flour, baking powder, and salt. Add shortening melted but not oiled. Add well-beaten egg and milk, making into a dough. Knead lightly on floured board. Divide into 4 pieces. Form each piece into flat, round cake. Cut it into 4 3-cornered scones and bake on greased pans in a hot oven. More or less milk may be added according to the quality of the meal. Cornmeal muffins. 1 cup flour. 1 cup cornmeal. 4 level teaspoons magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. 2 tablespoons sugar. 2 tablespoons melted shortening. 3/4 cup milk. 1 egg. Sift flour, cornmeal, salt, and baking powder. Add well-beaten egg, sugar, milk, and melted shortening. Mix well. Pour in well-greased muffin rings and bake quickly for 20 minutes in hot oven. Footnote: a heaping teaspoonful of magic baking powder to every 4 eggs will make an omelet of wondrous lightness. When cooking on a gas stove, use cooking utensils that cover the burner. All heat not directly under the utensil is lost. Bran bread. 2 cups flour. 1 tablespoon sugar. 3 teaspoons magic baking powder. 2 cups bran. 1 teaspoon salt. 1 tablespoon lard. 1 egg yolk. 1 cup milk or water. Mix and sift flour, sugar, salt, and baking powder. Add bran and rub in lard, using the tips of the fingers. Add egg yolk slightly beaten, then milk, and mix thoroughly. Bake in a greased pan in a moderate oven 1 hour. Nut bread. 3 cups flour. 3 heaping teaspoons magic baking powder. Pinch of salt. ½ cup sugar. 1 egg. 1 cup sweet milk. 3/4 cup of walnut meats broken into small pieces. Beat egg and sugar together. Add flour in which baking powder has been sifted, salt, then the milk. Lastly, the broken walnut meats. Put in well-greased tins and let rise 1 hour before baking. Footnote: test nutmegs by pricking them with a pin. If they are good, oil will instantly start where punctured. To clean tinware, try dry flour applied with a newspaper. Cornbread. 1 tablespoon, ½ ounce butter. 2 level tablespoons sugar. 2 eggs separated. 1 level cup, 6 ounces cornmeal. 1 level cup, 4 ounces flour. 3 level teaspoons magic baking powder. ½ teaspoon salt. 1 cup, ½ pint milk. Cream butter and sugar thoroughly together. Add yolks of eggs 1 by 1, then beat whites of eggs to a stiff froth and add them with the cornmeal, flour sifted with baking powder, salt, and milk. Mix lightly together till all is well mixed, then pour into a well-greased and floured shallow baking pan and bake in a moderately hot oven for 15 minutes or until done. Break or cut in pieces. This mixture may also be used for corn muffins or gems by baking in muffin rings or gem pans. Sufficient for 6 persons. Economy bread. 3 cups whole wheat flour. 1 heaping teaspoon magic baking powder. 1 level teaspoon magic soda. 2 tablespoons granulated sugar. 1 teaspoon salt. 2 cups buttermilk. Bake in tins with lid in hot oven for 5 to 10 minutes, then 50 minutes slow. Footnote: a small peeled potato placed in the water in which celery is soaking will make it crisp. Camphorated oil will clean the marks made by hot dishes on a polished table. Sweet dreams.